Here we are, this is Ruislip Lido with the artificial beach on your right, the little miniature railway on your left. You can just about see the tracks there, coming up to the cafe, play area. This is a leisure area, lots of woodland in Ruislip, and it is Ruislip Lido, so you can see quite popular here. And the race is called Lido Rido because you're going to ride out of the Lido and we're going to ride back to it. This was probably not the best time to film this race preview as the place was fairly busy. I should have probably gone earlier in the day when there were less people around, so not exactly speeding out of the Lido as we see the last of the artificial beach on our right and the reservoir lake there, which are going to ride round. You can see there's a sort of green dam going across the end of it at on your right. It's just going out of the picture. We're going to ride across the dam and then we're out onto proper roads. Slightly increased to get up onto the dam, but we're only talking about a metre or so. We won't count that as a climb in the race. So here we are, just minding the junior cyclists there as we go across what is effectively the dam that holds that lake in place. Again, lots and lots of people coming out for a weekend walk in the woods and around the lake. A couple of Audax rides start from here, one or two, probably more than two actually. There's a pub just, if you look across the lake, there's a building there. That's actually a pub, and that's the start and finish of quite a few 200k Audax routes and some longer ones too from Ruislip. So a bit of a cycling interest around here. The woods themselves very good for mountain biking as well. Not extreme mountain biking, but certainly worth, if you live in the area, worth a trek over there. Mainly trails in the woods. It's not particularly hilly. So out onto the roads as we head into the leafy suburb of Ruislip, which is in the northwest of London. These races all run by West London Cycling, based around this area on the outskirts of London. This really is the outskirts. If you turn right, you find yourself pretty much going into green countryside. If you turn left, you soon find yourself trawling towards central London. So this is right on the edge of London and a nice little leisure spot, as you've seen with the woods and the Lido. So it can get quite busy up here, and it's mainly people going to the Lido, as you can probably guess. And this isn't even one of the sunny days. On the sunny days, the place is absolutely heaving with people, and you just see lots and lots of people walking along here carrying their picnics or whatever else they're going to do in the grounds. So we're going to turn right, so we're not heading towards central London, we are going to head out again. So we're going to stick around the periphery of London, so you'll get this sort of almost contradiction, and particularly down this road further up, where on the left you'll see it's being developed, their buildings, and generally on the right there isn't much, because that's where you start getting the countryside, and a lot of that countryside is protected from being built on now to preserve the greenery, and no doubt with the onset of the modern green politics, there's even more reason why they don't want to get built, even if there's a contradiction on the other hand, there's a housing shortage. So glad I'm not making the decisions at the top of the country. Anyway, as you see, there's still some houses on the right here, but as we go further up this road, it eases off into sort of greenery. There's a little bit of a football ground on our right there, and that's probably about it. Only the odd building you'll see from now on the right. Now, from a cycling point of view, it's quite flat here, nothing to concern you vis-a-vis the race yet, and we're going to straight on here, missing out Fine Bush Road. We're going down Fine Bush Road towards Breakspear. You do get a bit of a stiff climb in that direction, but luckily for you, it's not in this race, so we're going to carry on towards Breakspear Road. Again, you can see this contradiction that I was talking about. You can see it's countryside and fields on the right, buildings on the left, and this is the demarcation where I don't think, unless there's a changing housing policy, you'll see too much built on those fields to the right. Unless, as I say, there's lots and lots of pressure, because you can't please all the people all the time, can you? Still flat, still in Ruislip, just going along this borderland, and at the end of this road marks really the end of the housing as well. So it's going to get more countrified as we reach the next stage at the end of this road. But you can see the traffic's quite busy. This is one of our outlets when we go on rides. These are one of the roads that you use kind of out of London to get yourself into the countryside. So nicely placed for that, easily got to on various roads and rail networks, and easily, it's an easy conduit out of London into the countryside, and particularly the Chiltern Hills, where a lot of people from this area of London will go out riding. And you can see the buildings becoming less and less as we hit the edge of Ruislip. This one pub here, probably the demarcation of the end of civilization, should we say? It's probably not the way to put it. It's not true, there are some houses beyond this sort of threshold, but they've been there for a long time. And my point about the countryside is it's difficult to get planning permission to build any new buildings. So we won't say there aren't any, but there won't be many new ones, as you'll see as we go out now. Now we're heading towards Harefield. Now this road undulates a little bit. It's nicer coming in the other direction, because when you come in the other direction, most of it is downhill. The one downhill bit in this direction was rather spoilt by this tractor that was in front of me, which meant that I couldn't quite freewheel down as fast as I might have liked. But luckily, with a little bit of bravery, we just poked our head around the side and realised it was perfectly clear to get around it. So this is the one bit of downhill that we're going to get in this on this road, and it's I suppose they're quite early in the race, so your legs will be enjoying this one. I do get the impression that some of the really strong riders like to pedal hard down a hill because they can create gaps. So do keep your eyes on the peloton in front, because it will, as I say, try and tear itself away from you if it can. If not, then everybody will regroup at the bottom. Not everybody descends at the same speed, of course, and I'm not quite sure why that is the case on a virtual program. I understand it on a hill, weight, aerodynamics, all these sort of things come into play. Quite why that does that on an RGT race, I'm not sure, because you can't see what the other riders are doing either, which is why I'm fairly sure if you have a look at the left of the screen when you're riding the race, and you can see the watts per kilogram, and you look at the guys on the front, they're not freely wheeling down the hill, and I think that is where the difference is in one of these races. As you can see, it's flattened out now, fairly benign. This, of course, filmed, I can't quite remember which time of year it was filmed, but it's, I'm guessing, autumn, looking at the leaves on the ground to the left. So, not many leaves on the trees. So this will be a winter recording, I'd say, probably after autumn. Again, this road to Harefield is still flat at the moment. Harefield is on a bit of a hill, so I'm afraid it does require some ascent. Ascent's really where a lot of these races are made or lost. Won or lost, because if you can get away on the hill, you can certainly drop some of the better riders. But it takes away the sprint finish, if you like. This race has had a cracking finish in the past. I do remember the finish of this one. It was absolutely sensational. If I remember, a solo breakaway right in the last, but it did still have a peloton when it got back to the Lido. The bit with the Lido where we came out is the finishing line. So we go back down across the dam and round that left-hand bend, back up to the cafe railway station beach where we started, and it is very, very gently downhill, but I remember a fantastic breakaway on that section which won it, I think, the last time we rode it. So look out for that. It's going to be a sprint finish. Now this is there's an uphill here. I said the last bit was the one bit of downhill. That's not quite true, in the sense that this bit does go downhill, but it's immediately followed by an uphill. So kind of, it's not one of those you might enjoy the descent, but what's coming next is going to be a key moment in the race. This just goes down to a little brook over a bridge and then up the other side. You can see the hills in front of you, where it will be going. So I don't really regard this as a free down. I mean, it is a downhill, but as I say, it's just preparation for the uphill. Even when you're out on a real bike, you get as much as you can here before it twists around and goes up the other side. And likewise coming the other way, actually, it's better coming the other way because the hill we're about to go up is much harder than the one we've just come down. So it's the top end of this hill where it gets steepest. So with the momentum you've got coming down there, you'll get up the first half of this quite reasonably, and just before the top it swings round. There's a slight sort of bearing to the right, and that's the steepest point just before the end, and there's a bit of false flat just after it, and then you're back out on the flat towards Harefield. So when you're on this climb, do bear in mind that the steepest bit is probably up where that car's just come from ahead of us, and that's where I think people are going to get caught out. The gradient does ramp up a little bit at that point. You can see how it bears around to the left ahead of us now. That's where the steep section is. And as I say, if you're still on now, that's the other thing. If you are, if you lose a couple of meters on this steep section that we're about to hit, we're hitting it now. So this is where it gets its steepest. Just where the pavement starts there, I think, is always a good point to focus on when we're going up this hill in real life. So we're definitely on the steepest bit, and you can see the houses ahead. That's effectively where it finishes. You can see the brow there, a little bit of false flat, but not for long, and then sort of straight flat and into Harefield. So as I say, you can lose a couple of meters here and perhaps catch up on the false flat or the flat bit that's coming up. You can see that's over that now and on the false flat. So that is where I think the race is going to have a critical point, and what you do about that, and whether you can if you are ahead, you really probably need to accelerate right now to create a gap. If you're just being dropped, you need to accelerate to try and bridge that gap, and nullify any gains that your competitors have made up that hill. And if you've been truly dropped, you probably just need to reform another peloton with some other people and battle out that little group. It's so early in the race that you would probably be best just accepting that you're going to be in a latter peloton and use the draft in the secondary peloton rather than chase the main peloton or one in front of you and burn a lot of energy, which will probably come back to haunt you. You won't get the benefit of the draft. You'll probably get caught by the peloton behind and beaten in the sprint too. So my advice, if you've lost out on that hill, regroup into another peloton and try and find some like-minded riders and ride together and see what you can do. Who knows, if you get a bigger peloton, you might catch the one ahead. You never know. So well flat as we go towards Harefield here. It's Harefield's at the top of the hill. Whichever way you come into Harefield, you've got to do a climb. There's a sign that says Harefield, the little green sign on our left that we just passed. So we come into the village green at the end of it with the crossroads, which familiar territory. You'll see a lot of cyclists most of the time when you ride through Harefield, because again it's one of these little gateways out of London and into the Chilterns, and a lot of riders from a lot of areas congregate at that crossroads, coming from the three directions from London mainly, on their way out, or I suppose later in the morning or afternoon coming home from their rides. But you will see, as I say, fairly decent amount of cycling traffic going through Harefield on a Saturday or Sunday morning, as we all make our way out to the Chiltern Hills. So this is the village, complete with lots of little potholes for you. Post office on the right. This isn't the centre of the village yet. You can see there's a building dead ahead of us. You've got the duck pond on the right, and the building dead ahead of us is where the roundabout is, the crossroads, where, as I say, you tend to sort of see quite a few cyclists, because everybody's got to go through those crossroads somehow to get out towards the Chilterns if they're coming this way. So here we are. This is the big junction at the centre of the Harefield, and we are going right. See, there's another cyclist, albeit coming in the direction that I predicted there wouldn't be any. So we're going towards Harefield Hospital now. You can see the sign, the blue and white signs on the left. That's for Harefield Hospital. It is a leading hospital for heart surgery, actually, and I think that's it's fair to say that that's on the world stage, not just the UK stage. So Harefield Hospital on your left. We're still passing it. Very famous, well-known heart hospital. That's its speciality. It does do other things, I must say. It's not the only thing it does, but I can't tell you what the other things are. I certainly have had neighbours that have been taken there. More cyclists on their way out, as you can see there. So what are we going to do here? We're going to carry on straight towards Rickmansworth, and this road has a particularly steep hill. Well, I say steep hill, it goes down in steps, but quite a challenging hill. But from this direction you go down into Rickmansworth rather than up, so it's again one of those, whichever way you come to Harefield, you've got to go up a hill to get to it. So you know, it's one of these, it's not quite a fortified village, but you can imagine that in times gone by somebody probably thought it was a good place to put a fort, I would imagine. I'm not really too sure what the strategic considerations are on building forts, but being at the top of the hill is, I think, one of them, as I understand it. Of course, it does probably require you to have something to defend at that point, so I'm not sure what Harefield would have been in medieval or beyond times for. In terms of a strategic settlement, who knows? I can only guess. It's so we're still actually in Greater London here, and as I say, it's not. A lot of this land is protected, and although we're in London, it doesn't look like we're in London, given the greenery in the fields and the lack of buildings. But as I say, these sorts of areas are protected to ensure that there's not too much urban sprawl, and we keep some sort of greenery to produce some CO2 for us in the area. Dead flat here, as I say, it's not going to be anything sort of significant while we're going in this direction on this road. There is a little bit of a dip in it at some point, as we see the 20% signs. This is the dip. As soon as I said it was flat, the sign came up saying you get the dip. So you get this little bit of a dip here. Now, although it's only a little bit of a dip, it'll be interesting to see how much this catches people out, because you'll see in a moment where that car is. I'm going to go round to the right, and immediately after that bend there's a little ramp. Now it doesn't look like much, you can see it there, but it is actually quite steep, but only for about 10 metres, and you'll probably notice the video slow down immensely all of a sudden just now. You can see this little ramp is steeper than it looks, and it catches a lot of cyclists out. You can see the whole speed of the bike just slowing down here, and it's probably less than 10 metres, and then you get over it and speed up again. Now that is smoothed in the race, so it won't be quite as harsh as it feels in real life, because of the way the smoothing works on the gradient. But there is that little nick there that might catch you out. I think if you're in a large peloton and going fast, it might just sweep you over, but we'll have to see on the day, so just watch out for that one. So far we've had that climb into Harefield with the steep bit towards the top, and coming out of Harefield on the road towards Rickmansworth, you've got that little ramp there that, as I say, won't be quite as harsh as it is in real life because of the smoothing, but nevertheless could catch a few riders out as they go through. So back on the flats again, quite wet up here, as you can see, puddles and everything. So this is, as I say, a winter recording as we see more cyclists on their way to Harefield out for a ride. Of course, if this were a summer day, then there would be even more cyclists up here, I can pretty much guarantee. So here we are at the end of this section, and it's left down the hill into Rickmansworth, or we saved you. We go back right up towards the next hospital. So 2 hospitals in this race. We're going up towards Mount Vernon Hospital next, so that's it's not a specialist hospital. In fact, on the grounds of Mount Vernon there are 2 hospitals. There's Mount Vernon itself, and there is a private one whose name I forget, so there's probably 3 hospitals on this course. Let's hope nobody needs one during the race. Now this is a gentle climb. It's not steep, it's a bit of a false flat really. It takes us up to the road. You may remember I pointed out where the post office was as we went into Harefield. If we'd have turned right there, we would have come cut out going through Harefield, and this road is now going to rejoin the road that went past the post office. So we've done a little bit of a gratuitous loop around Harefield, around the crossroads and on that little ramp, and now we're going back to where we could have done turned right before we got into Harefield. So the routes are all designed to be 16 kilometres, which is why gratuitous little loops like that have to be built in, loops that you wouldn't do if you were just riding from A to B, to make the distances up. These are races designed to fit into your evening schedule, so it shouldn't take more than 30 minutes of riding. Of course, it is advisable to warm up, so put aside an hour so you can warm up before the actual race, which I'm sure most of you will do. As I say, this little section very gently rises. It's not going to really it's not going to feel too much like a rise when you're riding it in RGT in a peloton, but it's nevertheless probably half, maybe 1%. I'm guessing there's another cyclist on his way to Harefield on the gateway out to the Chilterns. So as I say, this little section, I think if you're riding solo, it'll probably be that little bit of extra effort, whereas if you're in a big peloton, I think it'll almost feel quite comfortable as you get swept along, unless of course you're the guy on the front. Even more cyclists. I did predict this, didn't I? This is the gateway out of London. So we're getting towards the end of this little stretch of road now, and we're sort of heading back towards Ruislip gradually, and we do a left here, which will take us up to Mount Vernon Hospital, round Mount Vernon, and then back towards Ruislip Lido. This road is going to be dead flat, not too much to talk about along here, nothing of note on the scenery I think as well, so it's going to be hard to give you any pointers about what to do. Again, just sit with the peloton you're in. I suspect some main riders off the front will push it and see if they can split the group. This is a modern tactic we didn't see in the early days of the races, where the top riders go out on little digs early on and just try and stretch the peloton and see if they can lose a few people off the back of it. Once you get dropped from a peloton on RGT, it's very hard to catch up if you haven't got the draft. So the name of the game, if you're not one of the stronger ones, is see how long you can stay on and how far you can get around this course in a big group and getting the benefit of somebody else's work. I've never managed to get all the way around in the peloton, I don't think. Maybe once actually. There was one really flat one where I got to the sprint finish and immediately got beaten by virtually everybody. So as I say, you can see how flat this is. Nothing to get too excited about in terms of strategy right here, right now. It's going to be mainly flat. I mean, we do have to sort of go down, up and down some undulations to get back to Ruislip Lido. So enjoy the flat while it lasts. We just saw the entrance to Mount Vernon Hospital on our right. You could actually cut through there, but again we're going to do another gratuitous loop. We're going to go up to the end and actually turn right and go around the other side of it. So that is what I would probably term the back of Mount Vernon Hospital. We can cut through it, but we're going to carry on and go around the front of it. So again, it stays flat. It's going to stay flat until actually we get to the front of Mount Vernon Hospital, and then we're going to go down. And as I say, there will be hills of note or ramps of note, I should say. We don't. I would always argue that we don't actually put full-blown hills in these races. I mean, there are hills, but they're not climbers hills. They're punchers hills, is my view of how we design these races. And there's plenty of them in the area, and all our races are based on fairly local roads, either here on the fringes of West London or slightly into West London, but many of course out in the Chilterns hinterland where we all go riding at the weekend. Now getting towards the end of the road, this is where we're going to do a right now and swing round and come out the other side of Mount Vernon Hospital. So a little bit of a right turn here. Probably going to get held up at the junction is the normal scheme of things. And how long are we going to have to wait on this occasion? Wow, look at that. Very unusual to get straight out of there like that. So this is the big swing round, right, and then we're going to go right again by this building here, which means we're sort of going back in the other direction to the road we've just come out of. And of course you'll guess that any minute now we're going to swing in front of Mount Vernon Hospital as predicted. Now we're actually heading in the direction of Ruislip Lido again now, so we're on the homeward stretch, and there are going to be some good attack points on this, so keep your eyes and ears open for what's in front of you on this preview, because these are key points. Remember, so far we've had the top of the hill into Harefield, we've had the little ramp on the way out of Harefield, and now we've got some undulations on the way back to Ruislip Lido that could figure in your strategy. You see the bus coming out there, that's the front of Mount Vernon Hospital, where the red bus is coming out of those, the famous red buses of London. They don't look as traditional as they used to, I think, in days gone by. They look like buses from anywhere except for the fact they're red. Now, this is the descent towards Northwood. Now this will be fast. Enjoy this now. You get this as soon as you pass Mount Vernon Hospital. There's that bend to the left, and it shoots downhill before the next junction. Now it will continue shooting downhill beyond the junction, whichever direction you go, whether you go straight on or right here. But we're going right down Ducks Hill Road. Now this road takes you all the way back to Ruislip Lido. Now, I'm slowing down obviously for the traffic lights and the right turn here. You'll just get a right turn and you'll carry on descending. Now, straight after this descent, it absolutely lurches up, and you'll be pleased to know that I have smoothed the ascent, so the ascent is not quite as brutal in the race as it is in real life, because it's the way I've smoothed it. But you'll go hurtling down here. Believe you me, when you come up the other side, in real life it's actually quite a tough climb. You will see cyclists walking up it. It's not really something that, if you're racing on RGT, you'd never walk up it, you'd never need to. But I'm just saying, the sort of kind of, casual cyclist who's probably, just gone out to the shops or something, does find it quite a hard hill, although as I say, I've softened it, so it's not going to be quite as bad. Now here we go. This is the last bit of the climb, as you'll feel it on the race, because that right turn will just be a bend on the hill. And where that white car is, it's just coming out at the bottom of this, and we're going to go straight up the other side. And you can see now we're at the bottom, you can see it going up the other side. Now it doesn't look too difficult from here, and I have to tell you, with all the speed coming down there, the first section of this isn't too difficult, but it's just the top little bit, and as we get closer you can begin to see how steep the top of it is. So again, you'll get up most of the way, but like the hill at Harefield, it's that top little section that is going to be a little bit difficult. You can see where the cars on the right just coming down. That is the steepest section. Once you're over that, it's flat again, slightly undulates, and we're getting ever closer to Ruislip Lido. So this is going to probably be the most decisive part of the race, just on this hill. You can see the video slowed down as I crawl up it on this occasion, and it's I probably had my heavy bike, of course. That'll be the reason for that, I assure you. Nearly there. See, it's not very long, but this will probably decide the race, my guess. If not, there's a couple of small undulations. There was a down and then an up, I suppose. Then it's this really fast descent just before Ruislip Lido, and a softer descent towards the finishing line. So this is the key point. If you're still in the race here, you have got a great chance. Now we're on the flat. We're going to go past these houses. This is Northwood. As we get to the end of these houses and it gets countrified again, you'll see that it drops down, rises up, and where it rises up to a set of traffic lights, we're actually in Ruislip Woods again there. And if you remember that Ruislip Lido is really part of Ruislip Woods. So as I say, any minute now the houses will end. We'll go down a dip, back up to the traffic lights. That is Ricelet Woods, but we're not going into the woods there. We're going to carry on and continue back to the Lido section where the lake is within the woods. Of course, no ride would be complete without some roadworks, and I think it all goes wrong here because the lights change. Well, I went round the cars thinking the lights were red, but they turned to green. I don't think the rider behind was the driver behind was very pleased with me when he went to go through that and I was on his outside. So hold my hand up. It wasn't my best piece of cycling. I wasn't going to go and record it all again though. So here's the dip coming up, and as I say, it's straight down, straight up again. So you can carry the momentum from this dip up to the traffic lights. Then you get a fantastic descent down towards the entrance to the Lido. So this, as I say, if you're, it would be interesting to see where the race is at this point, because what you got is probably a split peloton and some little groups, and at that point it's probably well worth just giving it everything to get to the top of the rise where the traffic lights are, because that is where the brilliant descent starts. And as I say, if you can use those two opportunities, then I think you're in great shape. Sorry, I said the dip was a little bit further back. This is actually the dip I was talking about, and as you come up the other side of this, the traffic light, you'll see the traffic lights as we go up the other side. Once past the traffic lights, huge descent down towards the entrance to the Lido, left into that road that leads up to the Lido, right across the dam there, and then left for that home straight alongside the beach. Getting to the bottom of the dip now, you can see where it rises on the other side. That car's just come down, so nothing significant. You'll manage that. If you're this far into the race and still challenging people, then this is going to be nothing more than a blip as we just roll up the last section. We should see the traffic lights any second now, and obviously slowed down in my real life ride, so it's not coming quite as fast as I anticipated, but there we are. The other side of this hill is going to be a great descent, I assure you. Signs for the traffic lights, how about that? A little bit of a teaser before we actually reach them. I think the traffic lights are only a pedestrian crossing, by the way. This is because the woods, Ricelet Woods here, are both on our right and our left, so if you're doing a woodland walk you can cross from one side of the woods to the other. These traffic lights, which you can now see, wonderfully they're green. Traffic lights do like to be red when I'm filming these preview races. You can see the little walk across from the woods. The main Ricelet Woods have been on our left. So now onto this fantastic descent. I love this descent when I'm coming home from a Chiltern ride. It's just, it's like free fall into Ricelet, and you can go very, 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 very fast along this hill. It's one of those, actually, when you come in the other direction, it never quite looks as steep as it really is, and it's harder to get up than it looks, and you go faster than you think you should when you're going down it. And I think it's just your brain telling you that it's not that steep, but it's actually steeper than you might think. So it doesn't last long enough, of course, and soon you hit these buildings and the traffic has to slow down because the speed limit restrictions come into play. So quite often you find yourself braking because there's a queue of cars all braking before they hit the built-up area of Ricelet. Now, you remember we're going along the first road, and I said, on the right it's country, on the left it's town. We're just coming up to that road now, and we've come out of the country bit. We're hitting the town. If we carry on, we'll end up in central London, but we're not going to. We're going to turn left because we're going into the Lido. So this was the road out of the Lido, which you might remember. You can see it's slightly uphill, but I come here after 200k all axes and you don't feel like it's uphill, even though it is very, very gentle percent, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. We're going to hang right across the dam at the end of the lake, where this sign is, the turquoise sign there. Go through the gate. This is the dam, and we're going to obviously have to negotiate all the people walking across it, and I think, if I remember rightly, lots of dog walkers and people in wheelchairs and all sorts. Here we go, around the wheelchair, and kids on bikes, all sorts. Most of the people, and the dog that decides it wants to block my block my path. Safely negotiated the dogs. As you can see the lake on the left, you can see the beach, sandy beach over there in the distance on the left hand side. As we negotiate around some more pedestrians, and they negotiate around each other and kindly let me through. So that's the end of the dam effectively, and we turn left. So this is where the great sprint I was referring to earlier happened. Basically with the point at which we came into the Lido, along the wall of the dam and the left hand turn and this section towards the beach finish was where the great escape happened, and one of the best long distance sprints we've seen in one of our races. So this is more or less it. We're at the Lido. As you can see the beach on your left. This is not going to be a sprint for me because there's far too many people in attendance at the Lido on the day I filmed it. So we'll just negotiate our way around all these people and head towards the cafe. You can see the cafe, the wooden building ahead of us. So here we are, this is the finish. We wish you good luck on the day. As I say, some pinch points there, the hill at Harefield, the ramp on the way out, and the stiff little climb on Ducks Hill Road just before the Lido. Good luck, see you at the start line.